It's 2 minutes gone past 9 a.m. Good morning and thank you for joining us on today's edition of News Punch on Diamond 88.7 FM Ilorin, where we bring you the trending stories across the world. I am TOBI ADEBISI, and here are the stories making the waves across the world. In Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to release old 200 naira notes into circulation to coexist with new 200, 500 and 1,000 banknotes for 60 days. He, however, said the old 500 and 1,000 naira banknotes are no longer legal tender in Nigeria. The number one citizen who made this known in a nationwide broadcast on Thursday directed the CBN to allow the new notes available to all citizens. The president apologized to Nigerians over the difficulty experienced in the implementation of the Naira redesign policy. In politics, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State says the All Progressives Congress APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu has the best character and courage to rule Nigeria. This was as Wike said he owed nobody an apology for endorsing Tinubu. Wike spoke in Port Harcourt, the state capital, while receiving Tinubu shortly after the APC candidate's campaign rally in the state yesterday. On the foreign scene, 6 Russian balloons were spotted over Kiev and most were shot down after being engaged by air defenses, the Ukrainian capital's military administration said. The balloons may have been carrying corner reflectors and reconnaissance equipment, but officials did not specify when they flew over the capital, although their air alerts were issued in Kyiv yesterday. Shortly before the announcement, Ukrainian force spokesperson Yuri Inat said Russia, which invaded Ukraine in February of last year, could be using balloons in a new drive to preserve its stocks of reconnaissance drones. In sports, Nigeria international Victor Osimhen continues to make the headlines daily, and this time Italian transfer market expert Ciro Venerato has suggested that the future of the Napoli striker will be decided in June. Osimhen has been the subject of transfer speculation from some of the biggest clubs in Europe, with Manchester United the front runners for the signature of the Nigerian. The 24-year-old Osimhen was linked to a move to Old Trafford in January but turned down the chance of joining the Red Devils. That's all we have for you on this edition of News Punch. Up next is the Diamond Breakfast Show, where we'll bring you the analysis of the stories. Stay with us.
The major talking point in Nigeria are always on the lips of the citizens.
What's going on in this country? Look at smaller countries taking lead, and you call yourself giant of Africa. Yeah.
Nigeria don't spoil my business too much. Nigeria is too hard for us. I mean, I want to kill us. Father, not kill us for Nigeria. Oh, please, so help us back them.
They should reduce their expenditure so that they can free enough money for social development.
I wish for a Nigeria where we elect a leader based on competency and not popularity.
On the Diamond Breakfast Show, we place the spotlight on the critical issues in the country.
Government that says they are broke can prioritize construction of an additional runway over education of the people.
How can a government, how can you hold Indomine? This is intolerable. It's provocative.
Now, you see, when you look at our democratic journey, we are yet to practice the new democratic system in Nigeria.
Join us on Mondays to Friday on the DBS from 9 to 10 a.m. The Diamond Breakfast Show, amplifying the voice of the people.
This is our promise. We made up our minds to do something new, something different, do more, do the impossible, do better, do big, do good, do it again and again and again. Do what no one else has done with radio. This is our promise at Diamond FM. Diamond 88.7 FM, shining supreme.
The The major talking points in Nigeria are always on the lips of the citizens.
What's going on in this country? Look at smaller countries taking lead and you call yourself giant of Africa. Yeah.
Nigeria don't spoil my business too much. Nigeria is too hard for us. I mean, I want to kill us. Father, no kill us for Nigeria. Please, help us beg them.
They should reduce their expenditure so that they can free enough money for social development.
I wish for a Nigeria where we elect a leader based on competency and not popularity.
On the Diamond Breakfast Show, we place the spotlight on the critical issues in the country.
Government that says they are broke can prioritize construction of an additional runway over education of the people.
How can a government, how can you hold Indomine? It's intolerable. It's provocative.
Now, you see, when you look at our democratic journey, we are yet to practice genuine democratic system in Nigeria.
Join us on Mondays to Friday on the DBS from 9 to 10 a.m. The Diamond Breakfast Show, amplifying the voice of the people.
This is our promise. We made up our minds to do something new, something different, do more, do the impossible, do better, do big, do good, do it again and again and again. Do what no one else has done with radio. This is our promise at Diamond FM. Diamond 88.7 FM, shining supreme.
The major talking points in Nigeria are always on the lips of the citizens.
What's going on in this country? Look at smaller countries taking lead and you call yourself giant of Africa. Yeah.
Nigeria don't spoil my business too much. Nigeria is too hard for us. I mean, I want to kill us. Father, no kill us for Nigeria. Please, help us beg them.
They should reduce their expenditure so that they can free enough money for social development.
I wish for a Nigeria where we elect a leader based on competency and not popularity.
On the Diamond Breakfast Show, we place the spotlight on the critical issues in the country.
Government that says they are broke can prioritize construction of an additional runway over education of the people.
How can a government, how can you hold Indomine? This is intolerable. It's provocative.
Now, you see, when you look at our democratic journey, we are yet to practice genuine democratic system in Nigeria.
Join us on Mondays to Friday on the DBS from 9 to 10 a.m. The Diamond Breakfast Show, amplifying the voice of the people.
From the studios of Diamond 88.7 FM, from the studios of Diamond 88.7 FM Ilorin, this is the Diamond Breakfast Show.
Alrighty, welcome back, and it's the Diamond Breakfast Show on Diamond 88.7 FM, where we bring you the analysis of some of the major stories making waves across the country every day. This morning, a lot is happening, and we seek to speak to that. And my guest on the show this morning is someone who you do not expect, but then I decided to bring my Oga, my boss on the show. Let's hear from him. What does he think about all of these things going on? I'm speaking of no other person than the general manager of Diamond 88.7 FM, in person of Mr. Michael Olarewaju. Mao, Chairman Mao, good morning, sir.
Good morning to our dear listeners.
And it's nice to have you on the show this morning. All right, so the Naira issue took a big twist yesterday in what many political analysts tagged an accumulated aggravation. Nigerians across the country took to the streets to violently protest their displeasures on the troubles that came with the CBN new Naira redesign policies. In Ilorin alone, we saw a lot of reactions. Violent cases were majorly reported in Edo, Delta, Lagos, Kwara, and some other states alike. Before yesterday, Nigerians had lamented on the scarcity of the new notes and the deliberate attempt by some financial institutions to make the transition difficult. These allowed for an extension and the order that the old notes could as well be used till the new deadline of February 10. The Supreme Court gave an interim injunction that rendered the new deadline set by the president as powerless, and yet the CBN flouted that order, maintaining the February 10 was still the deadline. The conversation took on a different dimension. From the economic perspective to politics, Nigerians of all classes made suggestive remarks that posit their positions on the old brouhaha. State governors gave their position, and even Kwara State Governor Malam Abdurrahman Abdulrazak suspended public rallies and appealed for calm. Governor Sanwo-Olu and Ganduje of Kano both warned individual or corporate organizations who intend to reject the old notes. For a policy to work in a country, such structures are expected to be well drafted. Ours is a conversation that comes with different aims, very truthfully. This is not my position, but that of defeat average Nigerians out there. The president addressed the nation this morning, 7 a.m., and what he said is what we're going to be discussing on the program this morning. Chairman Mao, I want to believe that you heard what the president said.
Yes, quite well.
All right, what would be your reaction to what he said?
What he said is good for us as a state, but there are some ambiguity there. A lot of Nigerians felt that all the president was concerned was that the least denomination amongst those three denominations,
200
which
naira.
is 200 naira, is what the president is much more concerned about. And you find out that for every action, there are always reactions. And in most cases, for Mr. President to have disclosed that he's much more concerned about 200 naira and with little or no attention to 500 and 1,000 naira means that possibly the information at his disposal or at the disposal of the presidency and the policy makers was that maybe the higher denominations were intended by the people who are not making the currency to circulate to be at their disposal. And the intention of every policy on monetary issues is for it to be able to circulate. But when some people hoard this currency and it doesn't circulate, it does not have enough impact on the economy. If we want to rebuild our economy, we have to rebuild it in such a way that we just have to make the money to have value. And for the money to have value, it has to circulate.
All right, thank you so much, Chairman Mao. But then let's go on a short break. We'll be right back.
To Diamond 88.7 FM, shining supreme.
Shine bright like a diamond.
ikú parapọ̀ ikú ọmọlé èrún parapọ̀ wọ́n mà gìyàn gbogbo ọmọ ìpínlẹ̀ Kwara ẹja parapọ̀ sóríire látara ẹgbẹ́ òṣèlú People's Democratic Party PDP ẹgbẹ́ òṣèlú tó mẹ̀tọ́ tó mú káyé gbẹdẹmukẹ fún tolórí tẹlẹ́mù tó nílé tàlejò nígbà tí wọ́n ṣèjọba ẹgbẹ́ òṣèlú PDP láàánú mẹ̀kúnnù bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọ́n kó àkóyawọ́ àwọn àkànṣe iṣẹ́ jàǹkànjàǹkàn ní díẹ̀ nínú àwọn iṣẹ́ tí ẹgbẹ́ òṣèlú PDP ti ṣe sẹ́yìn ẹja tara ṣàṣàgbá káàdì ìdìbò wa ká parapọ̀ dẹ́gbẹ́ òṣèlú PDP padà àní sọ̀bùnú bẹ́ẹ̀ là ní ṣìbòdì.
ẹ̀yin ará Kwara mi ọ̀wọ́n ká dìbò fẹ́gbẹ́ tó láàánú ará ìlú oṣù wa ẹ jẹ́ ká dìbò fún ẹgbẹ́ PDP.
PDP, power to the people.
You're welcome back, and it's still the Diamond Breakfast Show on Diamond 88.7 FM. The conversations are still continuing about the new Naira redesign policy and the difficulty it has posed on Nigeria, on Nigerians so far. We're also talking about the president's discussion or president's address to the nation this morning. And joining us on the program this morning also is Dr. Ruben Kende Akon, a senior lecturer at Kwara State University, Malete. He's also a public affairs analyst and social commentator. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And it's nice to finally have you in the house. I believe that you listened to the address of the president this morning. What would you make out of that address?
Well, the address was sort of Nigerians' expectation. You have a chaotic situation at hand, and Mr. President decided to come in. The expectation was that that address would provide a long-lasting solution. It will calm all nerves. It will renew the hope of Nigerians. In fact, it will be like a father talking to his children, and the children seeing all reasons to listen and obey. But Mr. President choosing just the lowest denomination out of the three and saying this is, what if all that I have is 1,000 naira note or 500 naira note and I don't have any 200 naira, and I cannot go to anybody to say, okay, take 1,000 naira note and give me 200 naira note. So that address, falls short of Nigerians' expectation. to say the least.
All right. It was apparent that the CBN was serious about respecting the deadline on Tuesday, and people were already rejecting the old Naira notes. As a social critic, were you expecting the reactions that greeted the CBN stance on Tuesday?
Should the CBN go ahead to respect its own fashion of sacrosanct law deadline about facing out the old Naira note in flagrant disobedience of the Supreme Court order? Let me put it order this time around, not judgment yet. Already, the statement by the CBN governor when he went to the Foreign Affairs Ministry that emphasizing that no, the old notes cease to be legal tender and this or that. We see what greeted such statement within 24 hours. And now that Mr. President, who should be the final arbiter between the CBN and Nigerians, has also done something that is that falls short of Nigerians' expectation. Obviously, except we now have new Naira notes flooding banks and flooding people's pockets based on people's demand. If otherwise, we should expect the worst of protests, because some states are yet to join. And if the situation persists, we don't have any option than to go to the streets and press home for our demands. For any policy that is not humanitarian, that loses the human face, is no any other policy than draconian and autocratic. And in a democratic atmosphere, and somebody, even of Mr. President's status, the CBN governor's status, disobeying the court order is an invitation to something else. Don't let me call it anarchy, but it's an invitation to something else. So we should expect reactions. Should the CBN go on enforcing its deadline in flagrant disobedience to the Supreme Court order?
All right, thank you so much. We all witnessed what happened in the nation yesterday. Protests are demonstrations to achieve certain aims, and of course, they are, legal. They are legal practices. They are legal things to do by citizens of a nation if things are not going the way they want things to go. But for the first time yesterday, we saw citizens. We saw parts of the nation who are not usually involved in violence being involved in violence. We saw Ilorin, we saw some other states in the north also being part of this thing. Chairman Mao, do you think Nigerians took it too far yesterday with all that happened in Ilorin, in Bini, Delta, and all of those places? Do not also forget that we saw the video of a young man set ablaze somewhere in Bini because they said he's charging too high as a POS operator. So would you say that Nigerians took it too far?
I would say Nigerians took it too far. Honestly, it's not good to face hardships. We know that an hungry man is an angry man. But however, whatever we will do that will actually affect human lives, we must be cautious. Naturally, I believe in protesting whatever we don't want. But at least there should be a limit. And the danger in most of our protests and demonstrations is being hijacked by hoodlums. For instance, some of the protesters yesterday, some of the hoodlums seized the opportunity of stealing other people's property, other people's goods. Even there was an instance whereby some were arrested trying to steal other people's motorbike.
Oh wow!
You get the point there. It is these protests that hoodlums normally hijack that is why we must be cautious in any of our protests. And protesting doesn't mean that we must go lawlessly. Protesting doesn't mean we can have so many peaceful protests and still make our feelings known to those in authority. I will not in any way support protests that will lead to either killing people, stealing people's property, burning other people's property. It is not these people that have really caused us the pains. It is those in authority. And our peaceful protests are coming out protesting peacefully will make them realize the pains we are going through. Ideally, if there were no protests from various parts of the country, possibly Mr. President would not have even spoken this morning. So which means the protests have gotten some meanings.
All right, thank you so much, Chairman Mao. Before we go on a short break, let me throw this to the doctor on seats. It is not widely believed that bankers are some of the saboteurs of this policy, but bankers have also come out to say that they're not part of it. I even know some of my friends who work in the banking system, and I know one of them was stranded on Monday. His boss gave him 1,000 naira to go home and to come back the next day. So, but these notions are still very much there that the ones withholding, they're the ones withholding the new nairas, the new naira notes. What's the assessment of the role of the anti-graft agencies since the start of this allegation? Because I feel like at this point they've had so much activities since they started. So what would be your appraisal of what they've done so far?
Yeah, thank you so much. Before you even talk of the role of the anti-graft agencies, blaming bankers, and I mean bankers of the commercial banks. I'm not talking of the staff of the CBN. We are a people who will always shift blame on anything, on anybody, and I will not blame bankers. We now know the mindset. We now know the direction that the CBN, the line that the CBN wants to follow, and that shows that if truly banks have been given so much, and they are the one withholding such money, we'll expect that the CBN should have sanctioned such banks. The CBN governor, when he said that the February 10 deadline was still sacrosanct, this and that, he went on to say that POS operators caught extorting Nigerians or whatever will be dealt with. He never said that commercial bank staff, this, that. That shows that the commercial bank are doing exactly what the CBN
told them to do.
Told them to do. And you cannot bring in anti-graft agencies when the issue is an obvious one. He who plays the piper, dictates the tune. You can't, if you have not given me money, you can't order my arrest. You can't give leverage to the anti-graft agencies to go after me. For those who have gone round, what is their result? But you see, in Nigeria, once we have something from the top and it becomes a problem, then it is we on ourselves this time around. Just like what the chairman just said, the protest was embarked on, but we know that the effect of the protest, the ugly side of it, will still be on us. Right. But like he said, we cannot afford, your greatest enemy in life is your stomach. You cannot report your stomach to anybody unless you give him what it wants. And the only thing that can satisfy your stomach is money. After God is money.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ruben. But we have to go on a commercial break. We'll be right back. You can join in the conversations now. Send us a message on WhatsApp 09136556864. Once again on WhatsApp 09136556864. For your text messages 080 299-26951. Once again, for your text messages 080-299-26951. When we get back from the break, we start taking your messages and your calls. It's still the DBS on Diamond 88.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Everyone loves an upgrade, but with DSTV, you get boosted to a whole new level. Upgrade to more football and get boosted to the most heart-racing sports moments. Upgrade to your favorite shows and get boosted to emotions like never before. Upgrade to the best action movies and get boosted to high-octane scenes that make you shout, woo!
Upgrade your DSTV package and DSTV will boost you to the next higher package. Offer valid from January 25th to March 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to Diamond 88.7 FM, shining supreme.
Shine bright like a diamond.
You're welcome back, and it's still the Diamond Breakfast Show on Diamond 88.7 FM. We're still discussing issues surrounding the new Naira notes, all the issues that, came up yesterday and this morning. And you can join in the conversation on 09136556952. Once again, 09136556952. Hello, good morning. Hi, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from? You are not clear. Please try to call back or send us a message on WhatsApp. Very quickly, let's move on to. Hello, good morning. Hello. Something seems to be wrong with the phone lines this morning. We hope to be able to check it on time and get back. 09136556864. That's the number to chat with on WhatsApp. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, this is Mr. David Bala calling from Shaw.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, I agree with this in the house. The policy of the federal government is not that the policy is not good, but implementation is very, very poor. You see, an average masses that you want to save is the same masses that are not being punished. You see, the men that they were trying at least to deal with in this denomination, they have already amassed this currency in their house. And the faster the president takes a step to make this thing work well, the better it is for Nigeria. You see, somebody has from them in his house. Are you not telling us you can't put the money away? I believe that. Well,
the phone lines are not really clear this morning, but I think we got a bit of what he's trying to say. He's speaking about implementation of the policy. The policy in itself seemed to be good, but the implementation is something to be checked. Hello, good morning. Hi, good morning. Okay, let's move on to the second topic on the show. And we'll be talking about everything that the president had to tell Nigerians this morning. Well, the president made a live broadcast this morning, less than 24 hours after different violent protests were reported across the Federation. Before this live broadcast, the number one citizen of the country had met with the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, to discuss the tension and how to douse the raging fire. Let's also not forget that Nigerians are concerned about the relationship between the president and the governor of the CBN. I'm going to allow you to make an impression on that very quickly. What do you make of that relationship? Because many Nigerians are of the opinion that the CBN governor is supposed to be independent, but does independence also take him out of any, sort of relationship when it comes to issues like this with the president? Or to what extent is he supposed to be submissive?
Yeah. Well, all I know is that in this part of the world, nations' positions are in hierarchies. You cannot have a president who appoints the CBN governor, and you now say that the CBN governor can unilaterally do all things. Yes, unilateral, when his policies and implementations are producing good effects on the citizenry. But where it is otherwise, and you still talk of the CBN's independence, where you have a sitting president, the CBN governor has independence, has autonomy, has this, has that, but that is still subject to what are the effects of his actions as the CBN governor, where it produces otherwise, contrary to the expectation of Nigerians, contrary to the expectation of the citizenry. The person who appointed him in the first instance also has the constitutional right to call him to order, to draw his attention to certain things. Above all, whatever the relationship between Mr. President and the CBN in terms of independence or not being independent, I think the judiciary is much more independent. And you now have a connivance between the CBN governor and Mr. President to disobey the court order. So what independence are we talking about as far as the CBN is concerned again? When the president and the CBN could come together to propose a policy, accept the policy, implement the policy, and the policy is not yielding, maybe in terms of implementation, maybe terms of implementation or whatever, is not yielding the expected relief for Nigerians. And Nigerians decided to go to court, which is the final arbiter. And the court, okay, as it is, so for peace to, because what the court has done is to look at the social aspect of the scenario, not just the legal whatever, but where hardship is unleashed on the general on the citizenry. Now the court has the right to see how do we ameliorate the suffering of Nigerians. I mean, okay, let the old and the new cohabit for now until we have a substantive judgment. But you now have the CBN governor disobeying, saying something contrary to that order. And now that Mr. President has also spoken, it's like, I'm not saying the court should not do this, but this is the way I would want you to obey the court, telling Nigerians like that. Because if you are saying 200 naira, the rest cease to be legal tender, is still a disobedience to the court order. So we should not belabor ourselves with whoever is an appointee of Mr. President. Mr. President has the right to call him, to call his attention to certain things if what he is doing is not producing the expected relief for the citizenry.
All right. In his address, President Buhari appealed to Nigerians to understand the positives that come with the policy, which is primarily to protect the country. He said the policy has achieved 80% of its targets, and it can only get better if Nigerians begin to understand the purpose. Realizing how yesterday's developments can plunge the country into a deep economic and political and social crisis, the president extended the deadline to April 10. And let's also understand that this deadline is just a deadline for the 200 naira notes. But then the president, this is a clip from what the president said. Let's all listen to it.
To stem this tide, I have directed the CBN to deploy all legitimate resources and legal means to ensure that our citizens are adequately educated on the policy. enjoy easy access to cash withdrawal through availability of appropriate amount of currency and the ability to make deposits. I have similarly directed the CBN should intensify collaboration with anti-corruption agencies so as to ensure that any institution or persons found to have impeded or sabotaged the implementation should be made to bear the full weight of the law. During the extended phase of the deadline for currency swap, I listened to invaluable pieces of advice from well-meaning citizens and institutions across the nation. I similarly consulted widely with representatives of the state governors as well as the Council of State. Above all, as an administration that respects the rule of law, I have also noted that the subject matter is before the courts of our land and some pronouncements had been made. To further ease the supply pressures, particularly to our citizens, I have given approval to the CBN that the old 200 naira banknote be released back into circulation, and that it should also be allowed to circulate as legal tender with the new 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira banknote for 60 days from February 10th, 2023 to April 10th, 2023, when the old 200 naira note ceases to be legal tender. In line with Section 20, subsection 3 of the CBN Act 2007, all existing old 1,000 naira and 500 naira notes remain redeemable at CBN and designated points. Considering the health of our economy and the legacy we must bequeath to the next administration and future generations of Nigerians, I admonish every citizen to strive harder to make their deposits by taking advantage of the platforms and windows being provided by the CBN. Let me assure Nigerians that our administration will continue to assess the implementation with a view to ensuring that Nigerians are not unnecessarily burdened. In this regard, the CBN shall ensure that new notes become more available and accessible to our citizens through the banks. I wish to once more appeal for your understanding till we overcome this difficult transient phase within the shortest possible time.
Chairman Mao, that's what the president had to say this morning, and I want you to make a quick impression about, he mentioned the fact that the policy attained 80% of what it was meant to attain, and he said that before the administration came, that the money in circulation, the currency in circulation, was only 1.4 trillion naira. And the proportion of currency outside banks grew from 78% in 2015 to 85% in 2022. So the question that comes to the mind of an average Nigerian is under whose watch, and how watchful was the CBN for that to have happened? Who printed the new naira notes that went into circulation that raised the bar from 78% up to 85%? So what's your quick reaction about that before we go on another break?
Yes, we must realize one fact, that the word patriotism is not strong enough in us in this country. Nigerians need to be patriotic in order to be able to bring economy back on the sand track. And apart from, you find out that the president identify the issue of sabotage. Sabotage is common because Nigerians will always look for loopholes on any of our laws, and we refuse to really understand that we have a symbiotic relationship. Life itself is built on symbiotic relationship between each and every person. But in Nigeria, some people will always look for loopholes on any laws in order to sabotage it into their own individual advantage. Definitely, when we watch the way things are going in this country, you begin to think and look at people sabotaging the economy for their own personal benefits. And in order to actually readdress this, it means that we have to look at the nitty-gritty of these policies in order to look at how can it be implemented so that the masses will not continue to suffer at the expense of a few individuals. You know, you find out that all this issue of not having enough money in circulation is because some privileged individuals are always in the habit of hoarding the currency into their own advantage, not to the advantage of the populace. You get the point there?
All right, thank you so much, Chairman Mao. Let's go on a short break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Diamond 88.7 FM, shining supreme.
Shine bright like a diamond.
ẹdúró náà baálé mi ṣébi tẹ́ ẹgbẹ́ mi gbàǹjo òní tá à ń já kòtò tá à ń já gegele náà kọ́ yìí kò rí bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́.
Kwara ti yàtọ̀ ní. láyé ìṣèjọba gómìnà Abdulrahman Abdulrazak àkàìmọye iṣẹ́ ojú ọ̀nà ni wọ́n ti gùn lé. kó lè bá àmúlí lọ bíbọ̀ ọkọ̀ àtàwọn èrò tó ń kọjá lójú pópó lọ nírọ̀rùn. iṣẹ́ lọ lọ́wọ́ lórí General Túndé Ìdíàgbọ̀n flyover ní táǹkẹ̀. títí oníbejì láti Yẹ́bùmọ́ roundabout lọ Dádéta tó fi dọ́lọ́jẹ̀. táǹkẹ̀ òkè odò ring road ń kọ́. tó fi máa túnṣe Odiyidi road àti Abdulaziz Ata road nílọrin. tiléṣà bàrùbá wọ gbànàrà níjọba àbílẹ̀ bàrùtín kìlómítà 23 ni. tó fi máa o sí òbò Ayégúnlẹ̀ road lẹ́kìtì. tilérè district nífẹ̀ẹ́ lódùn. Coca-Cola Palace road níjẹ̀bà. àwọn ọ̀nà oníworo síworo interlocking lọ bàbẹ̀sùá. ọ̀nà tó gbóndóró kọ Amáyọ̀ bypass. Olómù road lómù àrán Kamal district nílọrin west. Emir Palace road ní Yashikira àti bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ mélòó la fẹ́ kà.
baálé mi tó bá òun ni tó bá wá rí bẹ́ẹ̀ Malam Abdulrahman yíyẹ ní gómìnà ìpínlẹ̀ Kwara lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni dìbò fún Malam Abdulrahman Abdulrazak gẹ́gẹ́ bí gómìnà ìpínlẹ̀ Kwara lábẹ́ àsíá ẹgbẹ́ òṣèlú APC. APC Progress APC máa ṣe lọ.
You're listening to Diamond 88.7 FM, shining supreme.
Shine bright like a diamond.
Alright, you're welcome back, and it's still the Diamond Breakfast Show. Let's take one more questions, and then I'll take reactions that we have on WhatsApp. And if we can get one or two calls before we leave on the show this morning. I still have Dr. Ruben Kende Akon on the show. And state governors are taking different stances on this issue. It looks like this is not their idea. I mean, we saw the governor of Lagos State, Sanwo-Olu, taking a stance on it, still mandating citizens to take the old Naira notes, 1,500. The governor of Ondo State also has a stance on it. The governor of Kano State even mandated everyone in his own state to take that. Kaduna and all of them, they were never part of the conversation from the start. And the same thing applies to the two chambers who issued different statements and reactions about it later on. The whole idea, even from the president's address, could be described as a two-man show. President Buhari and Emefiele. Could we have had it better if it was a roundtable discussion with governors and maybe members of the House?
Yeah, thank you so much. you see, the whole having a two-man, I won't call it gang, two-man committee on Naira redesign as Governor of CBN and Mr. President. Couldn't have been a problem if the policy had been well implemented, if the policy had produced the expected relief for Nigerians and enhance fiscal prudency and development and so on. But you see, when something is done in a hurry and it produces a ripple effect on the citizenry, nobody wants to associate with failure. Nobody wants to associate with policy somersault. No matter how good the policy might look or be, the effect it has produced on Nigerians has robbed it of the good intention, perhaps, behind it. And that is why, you know, the governors are closer to the people than the CBN governor and Mr. President. And one would have expected, just like you have rightly pointed out, Mr. President, to get feelers from the state governors. Okay, this policy has been on. I've been hearing one or two cacophonies here and there. Now, from your state, can you brief me of the happenings? What do you think citizens are saying about it, this or that? And I think from there, you discover that when the governors went to court, when they approached the Supreme Court to restrain the CBN governor and so on, it was after then that Mr. President had to meet with the members of the Council of State, the this and that, and the governors included. They met, and their position was not different from the position of Nigerians. That yes, we welcome this policy, but let's tinker with the terms of implementation so that what we intend to achieve will not be counterproductive on the welfare of Nigerians. That let the old something cohabit with the new something, or let's have more of the new Naira note so that people can go to the bank and collect, withdraw money, deposit this, withdraw this, and so on. But you discover that the majority of Nigerians, including the Council of State, the governors, the Nigerian citizens, are going one way, but the CBN governor and Mr. President are going the other way. And that still persists even till this morning.
I mean, we already have a situation where citizens have deployed a means of their own. In my area yesterday, I gave a bike man a new Naira note, and I gave him the new 500 Naira. And he specifically gave me the new Naira notes back. So the policy is now that if you give me old notes, I'm going to give you old notes back.
Well, I just pray that Nigerians will understand that. If we understand that, let's continue to trade with this money. If you give me old note,
I'll give you old note.
If you give me new note, I'll give you new note. But in a situation, and you see, the problem is the scarcity of the currency, or this cashless whatever we talk about. It will be very much successful in a country where we run former digital economy. Nigerians, you go to the market, you want to buy something of 200 Naira, something of 300 Naira. Should that be cashless?
All right,
you take
Doctor.
A bike, should that be cashless?
Doctor, let me quickly take the reactions.
Yeah.
Let's take the reactions and then we'll call it a day on the show. The time is fast spent. Good morning. Most Nigerians are disappointed in President Buhari's speech. So why did he wait for this? This present administration led by APC has failed Nigerians, and this is making APC less popular in Nigeria. From Alhaji Galadima Musa. All right, thank you so much for that contribution. Someone says, good morning, presenter, and morning to the analyst. My contribution is there are some places here in Ilori that people are still rejecting the old notes, despite the 5C order of what is the fate of the common man. Faith from Saboke. All right, thank you, Faith, for also coming on the show with me this morning. Good morning. My take on the president's broadcast this morning is that we need God's intervention. The policy is good, but why wait till the last few months of your tenure to implement it? I believe this is for their political beliefs. A particular party is already transferring the sum of 10K to people that accepted their offer. I can tell you some people I know got the money. This is what is trying to prevent vote buying, and guess what? They're transferring it already. Policies shouldn't be implemented this way. Programmers would understand if I say this is a kind of greedy method kind of thing. Hopefully, the policy achieves 50% of what it is meant to. We have this one from AY from Sobi. Good morning to everyone. To me, the president coming out this morning to use the executive order to put an end to the narrow redesign issue against the Supreme Court order shows he has no respect for the law of the country. What happened this morning shows president is the one behind all what has transpired between the CBN and the masses. It's absurd. Someone that shows interest in opting for presidential aspiration, these people don't think of the masses. If not, Emefiele is not worthy of still staying as CBN. It's president and Emefiele versus the masses. But you didn't put your name. Okay, good morning, Toby, and the guest in the studio. It looks like our president used this to avoid vote buying, but in all, by April 10 you will still see Nigerians complaining that the time is not enough. Mr. Festus from Igbejila. All right, this last one, and then we call it a day on the show. Good morning to you, presenter and the guest. Listening to analysis sounds somehow. We are all affected, but we need to set emotions aside. Doctor, don't analyze but expressing emotions. The deadline was 10th February. Court gave an injunction to order which ceased to be effective 15th. That was yesterday. Doctor should go back and read the order again. So the deadline is still 10th till Supreme Court rule otherwise. Injunction is an illegal but legal within short period of time, which justices always give. No one has disobeyed anybody. Let's wait for the court's ruling. I want to ask if someone, if Supreme Court rule is in favor of federal government or CBN on 22nd. This message is so long, but we have to go on the show. Thank you so much, Dr. Ruben, for coming on the show. We have to call it a day. I am Toby ADEBISI, and thank you for always staying tuned to Diamond 88.7 FM. Have yourself an amazing rest of the day.
To Diamond 88.7 FM, shining supreme.
Shine bright like a diamond.
rédíò wo ló dára láti máa gbọ́ Diamond FM ló dára jù rédíò wo ló dára láti máa gbọ́ sétí Diamond FM ló dára jù ká polówó ọjà ká